Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I'm going to read S66091 Great Expectation by Charles Dickens. Chapter 13, Planning Magwitch's future and hearing about his past. I slept a little but woke early. I felt I needed some fresh air. I went downstairs and out of the building. On the way down I fell over a man hiding in a dark corner who ran away immediately. This worried me. I suspected he had followed my convict to the house. Would he now inform the police? My guest and I had breakfast together. He ate noisily and greedily like an animal. I tried hard not to be disgusted by his manner. He told me his name was Abel, or Magwitch, and after breakfast, he lit his pipe and held out his hands for mine again. All I want is to stand and look at you, dear boy. A real gentleman, made by me. You're gonna have everything a London gentleman should have. A carriage and horses and everything. He threw a great thick wallet onto the table. All that is yours. I've come back to England to watch you spend it. Stop, I cried desperately. We must discuss your plans. How long are you going to stay here? How long? He repeated. I'm not going back. But where will you be safe? The boy, who knows I'm here? You, Jaggers, and Wemmick? That's all. Anyway, I know I can't live with the fear of death. I have done that all my life. All I knew was that I must keep him out of sight until Herbert returned. Then we could produce a better plan for the future. I thought he would be safe for the moment. I bought him a different clothes and had his hair cut. But to me, he looked just the same, and I lived in constant fear that he would be recognized by someone who had known him in the past. My unwanted guest and I spent 5 long days and evenings together with the wind and rain beating on the windows. Those few days seemed more like a year to me. He slept or ate or played cards. Sometimes he listened to me reading. With a proud smile on his face, I could not sleep or eat. I used to watch him sleep, wondering what bloody crimes lay in his past and knowing that I alone protected him from a horrible death. I can describe my joy when Herbert finally returned, lest I could share my terrible news with my friend. He too was shocked to hear that my great expectation came from the prisoner I had helped so long ago, and when I introduced him to our guest, Herbert could hardly hide his dislike. When we were alone, he said to me, "You look so pale, Handel. This has been a painful time for you. Herbert, something must be done. He wants to spend even more on me. He must be stopped." "You mean you can't accept any more of his money?" "How can I? He's a criminal. How do I know where his money comes from and think what I owe him already? I have no way of paying him back. Oh, Herbert, if I didn't have you as a friend, I would be desperate." I could only just control my tear. Herbert quietly pretended not to notice. "My dear Handel, if you want to pay back what you owe him, you could always join my company, the Cladicars. I'm going to be a partner there soon, Poor Herbert. He did not suspect whose money was helping him become a partner. There is another thing. This man has a fierce and violent character. He has come here with a fixed idea which he's been looking forward to for half his life. If you destroy his idea, his life will be worthless, and he will allow himself to be arrested and hanged. Yes, I've thought that ever since he arrived. If that happened, I would feel guilty forever. So you cannot destroy his dream now. First, we must get him out of England, where he risks death every moment. Then you will explain that you can accept his money. I'll help you all the way. Trust me." I shook Herbert hand gravely. Next morning after breakfast, we asked Magwitch to tell us more about his past life so that we could protect him better. He promised to keep it a secret, Pip's friend. He said to Herbert, "Well, I'll put it in a few words. In prison and out of prison, that's been my life, more or less. Don't remember my parents. No idea where I was born. I slept in fields. I stole food. Sometimes I worked, and I grew to be a man. It was about 20 years ago I met Compeyson. I'd kill him now at once if I met him. He's the man I was fighting. When the soldiers found me on the marshes, Pip, he was handsome and educated. So people thought I was a gentleman and trusted him. I was a partner in his business, and a dirty business he was, too. We persuaded rich people to invest their money with us. We used stolen banknotes. We wrote false checks. Compeyson was clever, but what a wicked cold heart he had. He always got the profit, but never the blame. His former parents Arthur lived in Compeyson's house and was very ill. In fact, he was dying. He and Compeyson had got a lot of money out of rich lady some years before. And Arthur kept dreaming of this lady. Late one night, he appeared at the sitting room door, pale and shaking, crying, Compeyson, she's there. In my room, all dressed in white, ready for the wedding. She's angry. She says she wants revenge. You broke her heart. You know, you did. And now she says I'm gonna die. Compeyson and his wife put Arthur back to bed. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, we heard the screams coming from his room, and he died soon after. I should have realized it was a mistake getting involved with Compeyson. In the end, we were both arrested for several crimes. And what happened? At the trial, he lied and lied. I was a criminal in and out of prison all my life, and I got 14 years on the prison ship. He was a gentleman of good character and with an important friend, and only got 7 years. Magwitch had become very excited and had to breathe deeply to calm. I promised myself I would smash his handsome face when I saw him on the prison ship. I was just going to when the guard caught hold of me. I managed to escape by diving into the river. That's how I reached the marshes. And then, Pin, my boy, you told me Compeyson was on the marshes too. He must have escaped like me. So I hunted him and smashed his face, and I was going to take him back to the prison ship so that he wouldn't have the pleasure of being free. When the soldiers caught us, again he was clever. His punishment for escaping was life, but I was brought to trial again and sent to Australia for life. Is Compeyson dead? I asked her after a silence. Heard no more of him, he said, shaking his head. But if he's alive, he hoped. I'm dead, that's certain. Herbert passed me a note he had been writing, he said. The name of Miss Havisham's half-brother was Arthur. Compeyson is the man who pretended to be in love with her. Chapter 14. Pip visits Estella and Miss Havisham again. Before taking Magwitch abroad, I felt I must see both Estella and Miss Havisham. When I visited Estella's London home, I found she had gone to stay with Miss Havisham. So, leaving Magwitch in Herbert's care, I went by coach to the town I knew so well. Before walking to Miss Havisham's, I went to the hotel for breakfast. It was an unpleasant shock to discover Bentley John there. I could imagine his reason for visiting the area. When he noticed me, he immediately called to the waiter, making sure I could hear, listen, you, the lady isn't going riding today. And remember, I'm not having dinner here tonight. It'll be at the ladies. And John smiled wickedly at me, knowing that what he said cut me to the heart. He went out, shouting for his horse. If he had spoken Estella's name, I would have hit him. I was just so angry with him and so depressed about my future that I could not eat the breakfast. Instead, I went straight to the old house. I found Miss Havisham and Estella sitting in the same room with candles burning as usual. Miss Havisham, I said, I must tell you that I'm as unhappy as you ever wanted me to be. I've discovered who's been paying for my education. Now I know that I shall never be rich or important. I can't tell you anymore. It is my secret, but another person's. I stopped, considering what to say next. Go on, said Miss Havisham. I thought it was you, Miss Havisham, and you encouraged me in my mistake. Why should I be kind to anybody after all I have suffered? Yes, you're right, I said quickly to come up, but you also encourage your relations. To think I would inherit some of your fortune? Why shouldn't I? She cried wildly. But Matthew Parker and his son are different. They aren't selfish or greedy. They are generous and honest. I want you to know that. She looked carefully at me. What do you want for them? I'm asking for money, I replied. My cheeks red. I would like you to help my friend Herbert become a partner in his company. I started paying for this myself 2 years ago, and I want to keep it a secret from him. But now I find I can continue the payments. I can't explain why. It's part of the other person's secret. Miss Havisham looked at the fire and then at me again. What else? Turning to Estella, I tried to control my trembling voice. You know, I love you, Estella. I have loved you long and dearly. She shook her head. I know. I have no hope of ever marrying you, Estella, but I have loved you ever since I first saw you in the house. It was cruel of Miss Havisham to encourage me to hope, but I don't think she meant to be unkind. What you said doesn't touch my heart. I can't feel love as you do, and I have warned you of this, haven't I? Yes, but I couldn't believe it. It's the way I have been brought up. Estella, Bentley Drum is in town here. You go riding with him, don't you? Is he having dinner with you tonight? It is all true. A little surprise. You can't love him, Estella. Didn't you listen? I can never love anyone, she added. But why not tell you the truth? I'm gonna marry him. I covered my face with my hands. After a moment, I lifted my head and cried. Don't throw yourself away on an animal like him. Even if you won't marry me, there must be others who love you. And any of them would be 1,000 times better than Drum. I can't marry a man who expects me to love him, so Drumman will do well enough as my husband. You will soon forget me. Never, Stella, you're part of myself. You're in every line I've read, every view I've seen, every dream I have dreamed. To the last hour of my life, you will remain part of me. God bless you and God forgive you. And I held her hand to my lips for a moment as I laughed. Stella's lovely face looked at me in wonder. But Miss Havisham was just staring at me with a mixture of pity and guilt. It was all over. To calm my feelings, I walked all the way back to London. At night, the temple gates were always closed. But the night porter let me in when I told him my name. He gave me an envelope addressed to Mr. Pibb inside. In Wemmick's writing, it said, "Don't go home." Chapter 15, Shelter from Magwitch. Spent a restless night at a hotel, worrying about the reasons for Wemmick's warning. Early in the morning, I went to see him at the castle. He told me he had heard I was being watched and that someone was looking for Magwitch. He also knew that Compeyson was alive and in London. While I was absent, Wemmick had warned Herbert to move out, a guest, to a safer place. Clara, the girl Herbert was in love with, lived with her old father in a house on the river, quite near the open sea, and Herbert had arranged to rent rooms for Magwitch in this house. It was further away from the center of London and our home, and we could easily take Magwitch to abroad by boat from there. Our friend is there now, said Wemmick, and you can visit him tonight. But don't go back there after that. And remember, Mr. Pibb, remember to get his cash. You don't know what might happen to him. Don't let anything happen to his cash. I couldn't explain to Wemmick how I felt about Magwitch's money, so I said nothing. That evening, I visited the house and met Clara. How lucky she and Herbert were. I thought of Estella and felt very sad. Magwitch seemed quieter, more likable than the last time I had seen him. I accepted all arrangements for him gratefully. I was almost sorry to say goodbye to him. Decided to keep a rowing boat near our room so that Herbert and I could row up and down the river as far as Clara's house. If Magwitch saw us on the river, he could draw his bedroom curtain to show everything was all right. For the next few weeks, life went on as normal, so that Herbert and I could blah blah blah. I rode on the river and waited for news from Wemmick. One evening, instead of reading alone in my room, I went to the theater where Mr. Wopsle was acting. He noticed me in the audience and kept looking at me in a very strange way. We met outside the theater. He asked immediately, "You didn't see that man sitting right behind you, Mr. Pibb? Who was he? You remember Mr. Pibb? That Christmas day when you were a boy, we went into the marsh with the soldiers and found these scared convicts fighting each other. One of those two was looking over your shoulder tonight." "Which one? The one with the bleeding face?" "Oh, Compeyson was still following me. I knew Magwitch was in great danger." Later that evening, Herbert and I discussed the problem and promised each other to be more careful than ever. I met Mr. Jagger by chance in the street, and he invited me to dinner that evening. Wemmick was there. Mr. Jagger told me Miss Havisham wished to see me on business, so I said I would go the next day. "Well, Pibb, our friend Drum has won a great prize. He has married Estella." I had been expecting this news for some time, but it still came as a terrible shock. I wonder who will be the stronger in the end, the wife or the husband. He may beat her. Surely he isn't wicked enough to do that. He may or he may not, but she is certainly more intelligent than him. We shall see. I had seen exactly such hands very recently. Suddenly I was absolutely certain that this woman was Estella's mother. Later, as Wemmick and I left Jagger's house together, I asked him about his employer's housekeeper. He told me that many years before she had been jealous of her husband and another woman, and had been accused of murdering this woman. Jaggers was his lawyer, and at her trial, he managed to show that she was not strong enough to kill anyone. She was also suspected of killing her 3-year-old daughter, who had disappeared. But because of Jaggers' clever arguing, she was judged innocent of murder. After the trial, she left her husband and became Jaggers' housekeeper. Chapter 6, Miss Havisham realizes how Pip has suffered, and I went to see Miss Havisham the next day, as she had requested. Her house looked darker than ever. How lonely she was without Estella. She looked sadly at me. "Tell me, Pip," she said, stretching out her hand to me. "How can I help you, your friend? You said something about it last time." £900 still had to be paid, and you will be happier if I pay this? Much happier. Can I help you yourself, Pip? There's nothing you can do, I answered. She wrote a check, which she handed to me. "Mr. Jaggers will give you the money, and here, Pip," handing me another piece of paper. "It is a note with my name on it. If one day you can write under my name, I forgive her. Please do it." "Miss Havisham," I said, "I can't do it now. We have all made mistakes. I can't be bitter with anyone." "What have I done, Pip?" she cried, dropping to her knees in front of me. I should never have brought up a cellar like that, or allowed you to be hurt. Could I ask you something about Estella? How and why did you adopt her? I never knew her parents. I asked Jaggers to find a little girl for me to adopt, and he brought Estella here when she was about 3. We had no more to say to each other, and so I left. But on my way through the old garden, I had a strange feeling that something was wrong, and I ran back upstairs to check that Miss Havisham was all right. I saw her sitting close to the fire. A great flame lit the room. She turned and rushed towards me, screaming. On fire, somehow managed to cover up with my coat and put out the flames with my hand. I sent for a doctor, who cleaned her wounds. Her bed was placed on the great dining table where her wedding cake had been, and she lay there, covered with a white sheet, half conscious. I couldn't stay, but left her in the care of the doctor and several nurses and returned to London. Badly burnt, but although I was in great pain, I was just desperate to know if Magwitch was safe. "Everything is fine, hello." As he gently put bandages on my hand, he seems much pleasanter than before. I actually like him now. Do you know, yesterday he was telling me about his past. He was married to a young woman who was jealous of another woman. There was a fight, and his wife killed the other. Luckily for her, she had a clever lawyer at a trial and was never punished for the murder. She and Magwitch had a daughter, who Magwitch dearly loved. Both wife and child disappeared after the trial, and he thought his wife must have killed their daughter. "How old was the child?" I asked, trying to control my excitement. "Should have been about your age if she had lived. Herbert, am I ill or mad or anything?" "No." "Listen, Herbert, Magwitch is Estella's father." The next day, although I felt ill and weak because of my burn, I went straight to Jaggers' office. He admitted that Estella was his housekeeper's daughter, adopted by Miss Havisham to give her the chance of a better life. But even the great Jaggers did not know that Magwitch was Estella's father. Chapter 7, Pip is close to death. I paid the clericals Miss Havisham's £900, and we're glad that Herbert's future at least was safe. Clericals were going to send Herbert to India to open a new office there, so while helping my friend, I would be losing him at the same time. Wemmick advised us to move Magwitch out of the country in the middle of the week, so we decided to row the boat down to Clara's house on Wednesday, collect Magwitch, and continue right down the river to Essex. From the port of London to Germany or Holland, with law, nobody would notice us or suspect us. Our friend Startup agreed to row instead of me, as my hands were still too painful. However, when I went back to our rooms on Monday, my head full of arrangement for the journey, I found a letter addressed to me and delivered by hand. It said, "Your guest, you should come tonight to the old house near the lime kiln on the marshes. Tell no one. You must come alone." I did not have time to consider. I rushed out again, was rushed just in time to catch the afternoon coach. To ask about Miss Havisham, she was very ill. So I read the lime kiln, which was still burning. The workmen had all gone home. But she opened the door of the old house, which I thought was uninhabited. But to my surprise, there was a bed, table, and a cradle inside. I was attacked from behind. My arms were tied to my side. Oleg, I saw he had been drinking, and I knew I was in a very dangerous situation now. I got you. Why have you brought me here? I asked. Don't you know? Because you're my enemy. I lost the job and Miss Havisham's because of you. And what's more, Billy would have liked me if you hadn't been there. You've been in my way ever since you were a child, and now I'm gonna have your life. Tonight, you're going to die. I was looking down into my own grave. I could see no possible way of escape. More than that, I don't want anything left of you. I'll put your body in the kiln. Even your clothes will be burnt, and in the morning there will be nothing left. I didn't tell anybody where I was going. Nobody would know where to look for me. It was your fault. Your ugly sister was attacked. I did it. I hit her with the iron chain. Your convict left on the marshes, but I did it because I hated you. He drank again. I watched the level of the liquid go down. When he finished the bottle, my life would end, and I know all about the convict you're hiding. I have waited and watched outside your rooms and on the stairs. You fell over me once. I got a friend who is going to inform the police about him. His compassion will make sure he is hanged when you're dead. The last of the rum went down his throat and picked up his hammer. He came towards me. Determined to fight, I shouted as loud as I could. Suddenly the door was thrown open and Herbert and Startup rushed in. With a violent shout, Oleg jumped over the table and escaped into the night. My two friends had found Oleg's letter to me, which in my hurry I had dropped in my room in London. They had suspected some wicked plot and come straight to the town and then to the marshes to find me. Luckily, they had arrived just in time. Look after me carefully. So the older man was blah blah blah. Planned journey on Wednesday. Chapter 18. The end of Magwitch's story. It was a cold, bright morning when we set out cheerfully down the river. I steered the boat. Herbert and Startup rowed at Clara's house. Magwitch was waiting for us, wrapped in a dark cloak. Dear my boy. Thank you. We rowed eastwards down the river all day, looking round all the time to check that no one was following us. Magwitch seemed quite happy, smoking his pipe, watching the water. You don't know what a pleasure it is to me, Pip, to be with my dear boy in the open air. You will be completely safe and free tomorrow, I said. I hope so, dear boy, but looking into the future, well, that's like looking for the bottom of the river, isn't it? Can't be done. He remained silent after that. Decided to spend the night at a little riverside pub. It seemed safe because there was no other guest, but the pub owner asked us a question which one he does. Did you see the boat go past, gentlemen? Rowed by 4 men with 2 others on board. It's been up and down the river several times. Could be a custom boat. When he left us alone, we discussed his information in whisper. Go to bed and then set out the next morning just in time to catch the ship to Hamburg. I woke early and when I looked out of the window, I saw 2 men examining our boat, but I decided not to wake Herbert or Startup, who needed the rest after rowing all the previous day. We rowed into the center of the boat. We could see the ship to Hamburg coming closer. Magwitch and I picked up our bags, said goodbye to Herbert, and Startup so that we would be ready to stop the ship and get on board. A boat rowed by 4 men appeared from nowhere, came up very fast into the center of the river. Close to us, 5th man was steering, and a 6th, his face hidden in his cloak. They all stared at us. You have a convict there who's returned from Australia, shouted the steerer. That's the man in the cloak. His name is Abel Magwitch. I'm a customs officer, and I arrest him. The Hamburg ship was almost on top of us, and the ship's captain shouted the order to stop engine, but it was too late. At the same moment, the customs officer put his hand on Magwitch's shoulder, and Magwitch pulled the cloak off the other man in the boat. Was Compeyson, and as I watched, he fell backwards into the water, his face full of terror. The huge ship hit a tiny boat. With a great crash, somehow the custom officer managed to get me on board their boat with Herbert and Stutter, but our boat sank and the two convicts had disappeared. Soon, however, we discovered Magwitch in the water, badly injured, and pulled him into the boat. He told me that he had fallen into the water with Compeyson and then been hit by the ship. I believe what he said. At the time, there was no sign of Compeyson, whose dead body was found several days later. Magwitch was taken to prison to wait for his trial. I arranged for Jagger to be his lawyer. Jaggers wanted me. There was almost no hope of saving his life. Magwitch's stick wallet was handed over to the police, and Wemmet was quite annoyed with me about it. Really, Mr. P, to lose so much cash? You see, Compeyson was determined to get his revenge that you couldn't have saved Magwitch, but you certainly could have saved the cash. That's the difference. But could I ask you something? Would you come for a walk with me on Monday morning? Accepting politely insisted, arrived at the castle on Monday morning, and after a glass of rum and milk, we set out on the road. Well, here's the church. Let's go in. There was another surprise. Well, he said again, look what I found in my pocket. Let's put them on. 2 pairs of white gloves. His postbox mouth was as wide as it could possibly be. When I saw the aged come in with the lady, I knew I was right. Well. Pretending to be surprised, here is the aged and Miss Skiffon. Let's have a wedding. So Wemmick was married to Miss Skiffons, and we all celebrate afterwards. I was delighted for Wemmick, but I couldn't stop worrying about Magwitch. He had been so badly injured that he was moved to the prison hospital. We have visited him every day. I read to him, talked to him, did everything I could to make him comfortable, but day by day, I watched him becoming weaker, although he never complained. To the prison guards, he was a dangerous criminal, but to me, he was an unfortunate man who had at least some goodness in him. I could not leave him now at this trial. Jagger was proved right. The judge decided that Magwitch, convict sent away for life, who had returned, must be hanged. I could not accept this terrible punishment, though to all the important people I could think of, asking for mercy for Magwitch, but all of them refused to help. That he was getting much worse, he lay in bed looking calmly at the white ceiling. Just pressed my hand. One evening I entered his room. He smiled weakly at me. Dear boy, you're never late. I don't want to lose a moment of the time I'm allowed to visit you, I said. Thank you, dear boy. God bless you. You have never deserted me, dear boy. He had spoken his last word. Touched his chest, remembering that I had wanted to desert him once. He put both hands on mine. Dear Magwitch, listen to me. You had a child once who you loved and lost. She's alive. She's a lady and very beautiful, and I love her. He was too weak to speak anymore, but he just managed to lift my hand to his lips peacefully up at the whistling. His eyes closed and his head dropped quietly onto his chest. Chapter 19, A Wedding. The excitement of all these evenings made me seriously ill for several weeks. Herbert was abroad on business for clericals. There would be nobody to look after me. If Joe hadn't heard about my illness and come to London to nurse me, when I was getting better, he told me some of the local news. Havisham died, left all her fortune to Estella, except for £4,000 which Matthew Parker inherited, and Oleg had been arrested for breaking into Pumblechook's house and stealing his money. The old Joe seemed just the same, but as I got better, he began to remember I was a gentleman and called me sir again. I discovered he had gone. I decided to go back to the village to thank him for all his help and to carry out a plan I had been considering for some time. I wanted to ask Biddy to marry me, and I knew I would be happy with her. So I went by coach to the old town as I had done so many times before, walked to the forge. But as I came closer, I couldn't hear the sound of Joe's hammer. I saw Biddy and Joe at the door, arm in arm. Pip, it's my wedding day, and I'm married to Joe. I was still weak from my illness, and the shock was too much for me. They had to help me into the house, let me rest in a chair. They were both so pleased that I had come by accident to make the day perfect. I could only be glad that I had never spoken of my plan to Joe when he was looking after me. Dear Biddy, you have the best husband in the whole world. I couldn't love him more than I do, she replied. Dear Joe, you have the best wife in the world, and she will make you as happy as ever, as even you deserve to be, dear good Joe. You put his arm over his eyes, and Joe and Biddy, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you have done for me. Tell me you forgive me for not being grateful, not being good, and think better of me in the future. Dear old Pip, God knows we forgive you if there is anything to forgive. So I left the forge and started a new life working as a clerk for the clericals, the Herbert's company, was sent to the new office in India to take charge, while Herbert came back to England to marry his Clara. Herbert and his wife invited me to live with them, but we all stayed out in India for many years. In the end, I too became a partner in the company. We worked hard and honestly and made good profit. It was not until 11 years later that I returned to England and saw Biddy and Joe again. Although I had been writing regularly to them, one evening in December I gently pushed open the old kitchen door. They were sitting by the fire next to me. Joe mouth was a Pip. Joe and Biddy's son had my name and looked just like me. They also had a little daughter and were the happiest of parents. Dear Pip, have you quite forgotten her? Tell me as an old friend, my dear Biddy. I can never forget her. But that was all a dream which had passed. But I was secretly planning to revisit Miss Havisham's old house alone as a way of remembering Estella. I had heard that her husband had been very cruel to her. They had separated, and then he had died 2 years ago. Perhaps she had remained by now. The old house had been knocked down, and there was nothing left but piles of stones in the garden. In the moonlight, I walked steadily around until suddenly I saw a woman's figure. In the shadows, I went closer, and then, Estella, I cried. You recognize me? I have changed a lot, she answered. She was older, but still beautiful. I had never seen such a soft light in those once proud eyes. I felt such a friendly touch of her once cold hand. It's strange, Estella, after so many years, we meet by chance here, where we first met. It's strange. I haven't been here for years, although the land belongs to me. But tell me, you still live abroad? Yes, I still do. I'm doing well in India. I have often thought of you since my husband died. I've given you a place in my heart. You have always held your place in my heart, I answered. There was a silence for a few months. I didn't think I would say goodbye to you here, she said. It's painful saying goodbye, Estella. But last time you said, God bless you, God forgive you. You could say that to me now. Now that I understand how much you love me, now that I have suffered, now that I'm a better person, tell me we are friends. She spoke more eagerly than I had ever heard her speak before. We are friends, I said, taking her hand, and we'll continue being friends, even when we are apart, said Estella. We walked hand in hand out of the old garden as the morning mist had risen long ago. When I first left the forge, so the evening mist was rising now, and in the clear moonlight, I saw no shadow of another separation from her. The end.